The Light Brigade is a video game that, admittedly, barely has a story. Its visuals are simple, its color palette is muted, the environments blur together, and it's repetitive by nature. And yet, I just couldn't stop playing it. Even after completing it, even after obtaining every upgrade possible, I'll still come back to it. If not for its story, its characters, or fancy graphics, what makes this game so interesting to play? In this video, I'll break down what makes it tick, what works, and what doesn't. It's good to have you. I'm Vic in VR, and I'd like to welcome you back to another installment of Vic's Thoughts on Video Games. Today, let's talk about why the Light Brigade, despite everything it lacks, might be one of VR's most compelling shooters. Released in 2023, The Light Brigade is a roguelike first-person shooter lovingly made by Functronic Labs. Even 2 years after its initial release, the game has still received regular updates which contain everything from patches to new classes and locations. This is already a big plus in my book. All of these updates have been free and have given me a reason to dive back into it and try out the new stuff. Now, being a roguelike, it's a game that's simple in its premise. The main mode sees you take on a series of randomly generated levels filled with shadowy enemies, tracking down a magical door that will bring you to the next location. During the run, you'll fight 3 bosses, the final one marking the end of your journey. In between, you'll be armed with a main weapon and a sidearm, as well as magical wands that aid you against the soulless horde. You'll gather temporary upgrades, items, currency to strengthen your cause. Die, and you absolutely will, trust me. And your soul will be given a chance to find back its body and so allow you to continue your journey. Fail to do so or die thrice, and the run ends. A game over here means you'll have to start over from the beginning. You either make it through the whole thing or you die trying, and then you dust yourself off, upgrade your gear, maybe try a different approach, and head back into it once more. Other game modes are available, where you'll find variations of this style of gameplay. There's the option to do a run where there are no bosses, or a seemingly endless mode where death is the only way out, for example. The core of the game remains the same in all cases. You start your run, find goodies and currency while making your way to the destination, mess up, die, back to the base with you, and go at it all over again. But this time around, you're armed with more knowledge than you did before, as well as more firepower. This is nothing new for the genre, but the Light Brigade makes the best of it by making sure that it has a decent balance between long-term goals, think leveling up, attaining new classes, and completing a run, and short-term goals, think the moment-to-moment matter of surviving and fighting with the weaponry available to you. How far can I get, you wonder, and then when you inevitably mess it up and fail, you wonder, well, what can I get? And after you buy and equip your shiny new toys and head into the fray once more, you ask yourself again, how far can I get this time around? Dying in this game doesn't simply mean failure. It also allows for an opportunity to upgrade your current gear or go at it again using an altogether entirely different setup and strategy. It's a simple gameplay loop, but it's a very addictive one as well. I think that shooters, as well as racing games, come to think of it, are particularly well suited for virtual reality. It's simply an altogether different feeling holding a firearm in VR than it is on a flat screen. The immersion is on an entirely different level that's so hard to describe if you've never experienced it for yourself. How you handle a weapon, how you make sure your shots are aligned, how you deal with reloading it, it's entirely different in VR. These things aren't tied to a button on a controller, but you have to use your hands to reload magazines, your arms to steady your weapon, and your whole body to adequately stay in cover. It absolutely takes some getting used to, but once you do, you'll never want to go back to the old school flat screen first person shooters anymore. The experience is that amazing. And the Light Brigade does all of this so well. The shooting mechanics are the heart of the game and some of the finest I've ever experienced. The weapons feel good, they're weighty and powerful, easy to grasp, but hard to master. Reloading is incredibly detailed, with every weapon having a different method of doing so. Some of them are quite unique as well, and getting the hang of reloading them in a frenzied firefight is such a fun feeling. I like how the weapons aren't modern, but all from the last century or even before that. They feel foreign, unfamiliar, and are much more varied than the usual suspects you can expect in today's shooters. They give character to the game's tone as well, which is dark, moody, and depressing. The setting and imagery reminds one of the hells and horrors of the world wars, levels ranging from frozen trenches to ancient woodland and to hellish landscapes are dimly lit and foggy. Enemies appear as faceless black monsters intent only on taking you down. There's a certain loneliness that creeps up on you as you go through the world. It's oppressive, melancholy. The world seems doomed, far beyond saving, like a memory of a battlefield, not an actual battlefield itself. The struggle seems almost meaningless. Yet here you are, one of the last beacons of life facing the ever-looming darkness. It's a theme that resonates within the game's environmental storytelling and, albeit rather lackluster narrative as well. The game rewards a patient approach. You're not sprinting through every corridor, you peek around cover. You set yourself up to give yourself the advantage before initiating a fight. You tread carefully to avoid traps and ambushes. You scavenge the battlefield for useful items. There is no UI, no health bar, no minimap. Except for the ability to teleport a short distance, your movement is otherwise about as slow as a paralyzed turtle. The Light Brigade asks you to focus on your surroundings. You think, then you act, and pray your plan plays out the way it was intended to do. It can be brutal, but it's mostly fair. When you mess up and have to start it all over again, it's usually because of a mistake you made, one that could have been avoided. You adapt and approach the situation differently the next time around. During the run, you'll find items, weapon attachments, and upgrades in chests, phases by looting the fallen and by buying them in shops. These are temporary and will only remain with you until you fail or finish a run. Like many other VR games, you can pick up objects at a slight distance as if your character has telekinesis. It's actually very handy and natural. Your knees will be a lot happier if you use it. Items are varied. You can find grenades, healing items, flares that summon friendly units, magical wands that send fireballs flying, or helmets that soak up damage. Weapon attachments offer upgrades in versatility and stats. Scopes, muzzles, charms can be attached and replaced to your liking. A new sight will not only help your aim, but also add a flat damage bonus to fired shots as well. Most items are tiered, which means some of them will be stronger or weaker compared to their counterparts. Then there are the tarot cards. Like the wands, they are part of the unique magic system the Light Brigade has. These will appear in chests and shops, and in the case of chests, the player is always offered 1 out of 3 options. Now the effects are quite varied. One will give each fired shot a flat damage bonus, another might hypnotize an enemy and make him turn cold on his comrades. Some give their effects after killing an enemy, or increase the amount of souls or experience points you receive. These effects can stack, and on a side note, endless runs can see player abilities get completely out of hand in the best of ways. The randomized nature of the items and upgrades you find, the enemies you face, and the locations you visit all work together to make each run feel unique. You'll also collect souls along the way. As mentioned, these can be viewed as experience points that level up the current class you're playing. Leveling up gives you upgrade tokens, which can be exchanged for permanent upgrades such as new weapons or items or stat boosts. The catch here is that souls aren't immediately used upon pickup. You carry them with you until you can either bank them at special converters or when you complete the run. When you die, you lose any souls that you were carrying. Only banked souls will allow you to level up. Doing well, but not running into any of the converters makes for such a tense experience. After attaining level 5 in a class, you'll also unlock a new one to play with. There are 10 different classes in total, each offers a unique weapon to use. There's the basic rifleman, armed with a semi-automatic rifle. This is the only class available to you at the start of the game. All the others have to be unlocked first. A scout class uses a submachine gun for those that like rapid fire mayhem, is almost useless at longer ranges though. The assault class, who uses a fully automatic machine gun, by far the strongest class in the game. The pistolier, who dual wields a set of handguns and has a unique ability allowing for super fast reloads. Also always starts with a cigar that somehow heals you. I'd like one of those. Or 1,000. There's the hunter, who's armed with a bow and arrows. Completely different to the usual gun combat, but the bow is well implemented and feels good to use. Also has these throwing knives that are a bit finicky to use, but still a really cool addition. The newest addition, the Saboteur, a revolver class which also uses a timepiece to temporarily freeze time. Really unique, even by this game's standards. The revolver feels powerful and there's something about one-handed firearms that just works in VR. There's a militia class with a semi-automatic but high-capacity rifle. The engineer, who has access to a special combat drone. You can launch it, then control it to use against your foes. Also has an automatic function, where it will fire at will at the enemy. Doesn't have a sidearm though. There's the breacher, or the shotgun class, another standout. Reloading and blasting this thing is so much fun. It's pump action and the game even allows you to load it using just one arm. 10 points, 5 stars, well done devs. And my personal favorite, the sniper. Tricky to start out with, as the rifle is ball action and ammo scarce, but it's also incredibly powerful. Felling a foe with 1 or 2 well-placed shots is a thing that never seems to get old. You'll often have to switch to a secondary weapon when you inevitably run out of ammo, which is nice and hectic. Keeps things varied as well during your run. It's hard to get good with the sniper, but once you get the hang of it, this class is just stupid fun. Every single class has something that makes it interesting here, something that makes it unique from the others. Some start out with secondary arms like pistols or magic wands. Other classes need to be upgraded first to unlock the sidearms and bonuses. One thing of note here is that the class system is completely unbalanced. The sniper and the pistolier will always be much less capable than the assault class with its high damage and automatic assault rifle. To me, this really isn't much of a problem though. There's no player versus player multiplayer here. The Light Brigade is a solitary experience. As such, you don't need the best weapons, you need the most interesting ones. Leveling up each class can be a bit of a grind, but I think that the tangible upgrades you are rewarded for doing so are worth the hassle. Fallen foes will also drop their weapons. The use is limited, the weapons are corrupted and will break after a few shots. Still, handy in a pinch, ammo can often be scarce in this game. Let's take a look at the game's hub. You'll find yourself here before and after every run. This is where you'll spend your upgrade tokens, select classes, try out weapons in peace, and pick which game mode you wish to tackle. Effectively, this place serves instead of a traditional main menu. And although I appreciate the effort to try something else, I can't say the hub is implemented perfectly. The central entrance to the main mode, the shops and the important characters, these are all fine. It's not difficult finding these and figuring out what they are for. Other elements, not so much. There's a weapon range beside the class selector, and there's actually a second one behind the door just to the right of the first one. This is never pointed out. The player will find another door on a hill off of the main path. This door will sometimes take the player to a specialized daily run or to the endless mode known as the global sun run. Neither of these modes are explained very well, and as the door sometimes picks one mode and at other times the other, it's all just much more confusing than is necessary. Sometimes a simple menu is the best call. Easy to read and understand, simple and effective to use. Let's tackle some other criticisms. In the first few hours, the locations will all be fresh and exciting. In time, however, you'll start to see the room types repeating in noticeable patterns. Some of these are static and will always appear the exact same way, for example, the boss fights. Others will have variations, but these are never too outlandish compared to the one that came before. The variety in different locations is appreciated, however, even if they go into some cliches like the sewer levels. There is some variety to the enemies you face, but maybe not as much as I would have liked. Most often, you run into the black soldiers. They'll be out with grenades, a rifle, maybe a machine gun, and there are mages too who will try to cast black magic on you. Otherwise, you might run into wolves, rats, hawks, as well as a giant shadow firing lasers from its eyes. This thing nearly gave me a heart attack the first time I came across it. As a plus, some of these enemies will be of a higher level, making them stronger and more dangerous. However, it doesn't take long before you see them all. The variety is not terrible, mind you, it's decent, it's enough to keep things from getting too stale, but the cast of enemies could certainly use a few more additions to keep things spicy later on in the playthrough. Then there's the bosses. These are all a bit of a miss for me. The main mode will always see you fight the same 3 bosses in the same order with no changes to their mechanics. They can be difficult, especially the first few times you face them. You'll have no clue what to look out for, and the lesson will often be learned by messing it up and failing the run. After you figure out what is expected from you, however, the fights become almost trivial and certainly boring. They have a ton of health, and all implies some gimmick that you'll have to deal with. The first one is an ice wizard that will try to hurt you using a variety of spells. Some of these can even go around cover. The second one is in the middle of a room with a toxic pool. He'll have to flip levers scattered across the room before being able to hurt the boss. The final boss will move around the stage a lot, sometimes even going for a melee attack. Also has a second phase after you beat him once, and besting this one will mean the player wins the run. Now, after the first 2 boss fights, you'll be brought into a room that contains a place to heal, a device to donate items and gain souls, a pool where items can be exchanged for money, and a shop where the player can buy items and upgrades. A place to rest up before you head into it once more. After a while, I much preferred the game modes without the boss fights. The regular fights and rooms are just so much more interesting to me than anything these bosses have to offer. Even though this is a single-player experience, there are some elements that do involve other players. You might find their named bodies lying lifeless on the ground, and are able to donate items to others through a special contraption that's often found at the shop. I wish there was more of that in here, as it somehow makes the experience seem less lonely. It reminds me of the online mechanics of Dark Souls, and the Light Brigade might have used more of the features that game had here. Think of the signs and messages that can be left for others, their ghosts reliving their last moments, or the ability to summon in a friend during a boss fight. I'll even dare to dream of a cooperative mode, as the game feels like it would have been amazing, maybe even better as a 2-player experience. Of course, not every shooter has to be an online shooter, but I feel like it could have worked here. And of course, we have to talk about the game's story. Won't take long, as there really isn't much to be found here. Let's make it perfectly clear. The Light Brigade doesn't need a story. I believe its gameplay loop and mechanics are good enough to stand on their own. The setting and atmosphere bring life and tone to the world as it is. So when the game decides to throw storyboard panels at you containing uninteresting lore, when the game asks you to care about its fake and tiny cast of characters, or when you're asked to make a choice which only impacts a near non-existent narrative, it's hard to care. Now don't get me wrong, I love a good story. Don't ever get me started on Final Fantasy X story or lore, because I might never stop. However, you can't half-ass these things. You need substance, a plot, characters that interact. You can't run a narrative on tone alone. And there isn't enough substance in this game's story to make it meaningful. It really only gets in the way of the fantastic gameplay. Less would have been more here. Or, more. But it would have to have been much, much more. Thankfully, as there's so little story here, this also means it won't take much of your time, so you can get back to blasting quick enough. The game is pretty stable in 2025, but some bugs still occur from time to time. A very common and annoying one sees your enemies become invincible to all your attacks. The only way to fix this is to close and restart the game. Sometimes loot isn't able to be picked up when it should be. Some design elements are not explained to the player well enough, making them unnecessarily confusing. The different game modes and how to access them, for example. Some explanation of the tarot cards and their effects aren't very clear either. There's trial and error to some elements to this game which really weren't necessary. It doesn't help that the game has a smaller audience, and thus there's less info to find on the internet about all the smaller details. Still, none of these things can spoil the fun that's to be had here. The Light Brigade offers you a lonely war, a near endless struggle for victory. The combat is engaging, unlocking new gear and upgrades is addicting, making it all the way through feels satisfying. Even when you do, the game ups the difficulty and challenges you to do it all over again. The Light Brigade will allow you to press on and on for as long as you want to. And despite being made by such a small studio, I think Functronic Labs did an absolutely wonderful job here. This game has meat to its bones, but most importantly, they made sure that the moment-to-moment gameplay holds up at all times. This game pulls you in. It's unique, it's engaging, and most of all, it's just plain damn fun. If you're into shooters, if you like a good game loop, this game has something that's hard to find anywhere else. The future's still looking bright too, as updates are still happening and even more new features might appear in later versions of the game. And even if not, there's enough here right now to keep you hooked for a long, long while. I definitely recommend you give it a go. The Light Brigade is available on Steam, MetaQuest 2 and 3 and the PlayStation VR 2. Like always, all of the footage was recorded on the PlayStation 5 version. Like the show? Why not leave a like and your thoughts in the comments below? It would really help me out and I would love to hear from you. As always, it was good to have you. Take care and I'll see you at the next one. Goodbye.